The crystalline halls of the Xinthian palace reflected the tri-suns in patterns that would drive most species mad. Princess Melissa stood at the observation deck, her four eyes narrowing as she watched the human delegation's shuttle land in the courtyard below. Her scales shimmered from violet to deep crimson, a sign of irritation among her people. "Another human," she muttered, her translator chip converting her melodic clicks into galactic standard. "The Council really thinks these fragile creatures can help us?" Her advisor, an elderly Xinthian named Krell, bowed his head respectfully. "The humans have proven surprisingly resilient, Your Highness. This one comes highly recommended by the Galactic Defense Initiative." Melissa scoffed. Humans were famous throughout the galaxy for their weakness. Their homeworld was a barely hospitable death trap by galactic standards, yet they somehow thrived there. They lacked natural armor, couldn't breathe most atmospheric compositions, and their lifespans were laughably short. The fact that they'd achieved spaceflight at all was considered a cosmic joke. "Send him in," she said, settling onto her resting platform. "Let's see what this expert has to offer." Burak entered the throne room with the casual confidence that made most aliens uncomfortable. He was tall for a human, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to calculate everything they saw. Unlike the formal diplomatic attire most species wore, he was dressed in practical combat gear, modified, of course, for the palace's atmosphere processors. "Princess Melissa," he said, offering a slight bow. "Thank you for seeing me. You are the survival specialist?" Melissa's tone dripped with skepticism. "You look like you'd perish in our nursery chambers." Burak's lips curved into a slight smile. "I've heard that before, usually right before I prove them wrong." The princess rose from her platform, her considerable height making her tower over the human. On her homeworld of Xinthia Prime, nightfall brought horrors that had driven 3 previous colonizing species to extinction. The temperature dropped 200 degrees in minutes. The atmosphere became saturated with corrosive compounds, and then there were the creatures, the Nightborn, as the Xinthians called them, predators that had evolved in the planet's deadly nocturnal ecosystem. "Our world becomes hell itself when darkness falls," Melissa said, circling Burak like a predator assessing prey. "We Xinthians survive in underground bunkers, protected by meters of reinforced titanium and energy shields. Even our warriors, trained from birth, dare not venture outside after sunset. And yet the Nightborn have found a way to breach our defenses. 17 settlements have gone dark in the past lunar cycle." "That's why I'm here," Burak said calmly. "You misunderstand, human. I'm not asking for your help. I'm explaining why you should leave before you die." She leaned closer, her fangs visible. "Our greatest champions have perished in minutes outside after dark. You wouldn't survive a single night on the surface." Burak's smile widened. "Let's test that." The throne room fell silent. Even Krell looked shocked. You're volunteering to go outside during nightfall?" Melissa's scales flickered with confusion. "You understand this means almost certain death?" "I understand you have a problem that needs solving," Burak replied, pulling out a datapad. "I've studied your planet's nocturnal environment. The temperature drop, the atmospheric changes, the Nightborn hunting patterns. It's dangerous, sure, but I've survived worse." "Worse?" Melissa's laugh was harsh. "What could possibly be worse than Xinthia's night?" "Earth," Burak said simply. 3 hours later, Melissa stood in the command bunker, watching the surface monitors as the tri-suns began their descent. Beside her, Burak made final adjustments to his gear. His suit was unlike anything she'd seen, layered, adaptive, and covered with equipment she didn't recognize. "Last chance to reconsider," she offered, though something in her voice had changed. Perhaps it was curiosity, perhaps respect. "Appreciate it," Burak said, sealing his helmet. "But I've got this." The airlock cycled open, and the human stepped into the dying light. Melissa watched through the cameras as darkness swallowed the surface. The temperature readings plummeted. The first Nightborn appeared, massive 6-legged monstrosities with claws that could shred starship hulls. They converged on the human's position. "He's finished," Krell whispered. But Burak didn't run. He moved with purpose, deploying devices from his pack. Suddenly, brilliant lights erupted across the surface. Not the gentle glow of Xinthian technology, but harsh, blazing illumination that mimicked Earth's sun. The Nightborn recoiled, screeching. "What is he doing?" Melissa breathed. The human's voice crackled through the calm. On Earth, we learned to master fire before we invented the wheel. We conquered darkness when we were still living in caves. Humans don't fear the night, Princess. We made it afraid of us. For the next 10 hours, Melissa watched in amazement as Barak not only survived but thrived. He studied the Nightborn, documented their behavior, and even captured biological samples. He used controlled fires, light arrays, and tactics that seemed impossibly reckless, yet proved devastatingly effective. When the creatures adapted to one strategy, he switched to another. Earth, Melissa realized, had prepared him for this in ways no other world could. A planet where humans had clawed their way from prey to apex predator, where they'd survived ice ages and heat waves, where they'd learned to turn every environment, no matter how hostile, into home. When the Tri-Suns rose and Burak returned to the airlock, his suit was scorched and torn, but he was grinning. In his hands were data chips containing everything he'd learned. "Your Nightborn have weaknesses," he said, removing his helmet. "I can teach your people how to fight them, how to reclaim your surface." Princess Melissa stared at this impossible human who'd done what no Xinthian had achieved in 1,000 years. Her scales shifted to gold, the color of admiration. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "And my people owe you their freedom," Burak shrugged. "That's what humans do, Princess. We survive, and then we help others do the same." As he walked past her toward the medical bay, Melissa understood why the galaxy both feared and needed humanity. They were born on a world that should have killed them, yet they'd turned its cruelty into strength. They didn't just survive the night. They conquered it,